Big one in the ACC. We got Miami at North Carolina. North Carolina is a 3.5-point favorite. I want to start with Miami, though, because for Miami, there's been so much said about them this past week. I mean, the whole deal with they didn't take a knee against Georgia Tech, they fumbled the football, they end up losing the game. I think with punchline culture and with people being so quick to play Twitter head coach and say, well, I would have taken a knee. Well, okay, that's great. Well, you weren't the head coach. You didn't make that call. Was it the right call to take a knee? Yeah, 100%. No way around it. But right now, I think we're kind of forgetting that Miami could have won that football game pretty easily. Again, you take a knee, Miami's undefeated. This game probably has more juice. Why are we forgetting that about Miami? Why are we just imagining that they're somehow a bad football team because they made one bad call and lost a football game they were supposed to win? I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying I think Twitter has kind of poisoned our view of what Miami actually is. So this is their chance now. This is kind of their get-right game, their bounce-back game against a really good opponent in North Carolina. Because for North Carolina now, they got to feel like this is the year. Tez Walker is eligible. Drake May is arguably the best player in college football, not named Caleb Williams, Brock Bowers, Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, he's right up there in that conversation. I think they have a feeling right now of the way the ACC is shaping up and the way that they're starting to play on the defensive side of the football. The time is now. The time is now. And that's great for it to be there conceptually and hypothetically and for it to be there on paper, but to follow through on it, it starts in a game like this with Miami coming to town. So one thing I'm watching in this game right off the bat, we talked about it, Drake May, no drama Drizzy, as I call him on here. The aggressive safety play of Miami, how does he end up dealing with that? That matchup is going to be crucial because if you watch Miami at all, their safeties get downhill with bad intentions. Like, they get their keys and they trigger quickly. And that's great if you get home and you make the play. But if you don't, there's probably a fair amount of real estate behind you if you trigger too quickly and you trigger on the wrong thing and it's a play action and we got Tez Walker deep in the end zone, touchdown North Carolina. So is Miami able to play that with integrity and not get duped by North Carolina and Drake May? And also a subplot within this, Drake May and what he does with his legs. I mean, people talk a lot about Drake May and his arm, and there's a ton of reason for that. But you turn on the tape and watch number 10, man, he is slippery. He is a true dual threat quarterback. And we saw last week from Miami, Haynes King and his dual threat abilities, that put Miami in conflict, especially on the back end a couple of times. Like whenever he breaks contain and you get in this position as a second and third level defender where it's like he could tuck it and run and pick up some yards that way, or if he peels back and decides to throw the football deep, well, that's a big play as well. So whenever you're in conflict, how Miami handles that is going to tell us a lot. And how Drake May handles that is going to tell us a lot. Other thing I'm watching here, Tyler Van Dyke, the quarterback from Miami, against the defensive coordinator for North Carolina, Gene Chizik. Now, Georgia Tech, I thought, did a really good job against Miami of deceiving Tyler Van Dyke. And some of this, too, was decision-making by Tyler Van Dyke. He put the ball in harm's way, threw a few interceptions. But the reason why this is so crucial to me, if Miami's able to stay on schedule and they're able to just kind of check down and play the kind of style of football they want to play where they get downhill and run the football at you and stay balanced, that's going to make the picture a lot more digestible for Tyler Van Dyke and how tricky North Carolina is able to be. But if North Carolina is able to do what Georgia Tech did and force Tyler Van Dyke into making some bad decisions and giving them some extra possessions, you can't give Drake May more ammunition and expect to win the football game. You can't. You can't. There cannot be a situation where North Carolina has more possessions than Miami and Miami wins the football game. That would be very surprising to me, is what I'll say there. The subplot within this now is the quick game with Miami, because if you watch what they did against Georgia Tech, it was a lot of Xavier Restrepo in space. Hey, tight end, let's run the ball route where you essentially run 8 to 10 yards and line up directly over the football, right in the line of sight for Tyler Van Dyke. Let's go get north and south. What they're able to do after the catch, I think will really have a large impact on this game. And what they do after the catch is directly correlated to how Gene Chizik and this defense are able to tackle. Now, Gene Chizik obviously won't do any tackling in this football game. Likely, we'll see. I mean, I think the over-under on him is probably less than a half tackle. But with that being said, being able to get Xavier Restrepo on the ground for a 5-yard gain when he catches it at 5 yards and not have it be Xavier Restrepo for 12 to 13 yards after a 5-yard catch is going to be crucial, because if Miami, again, can stay on schedule and can soften up that defense, then they get to do what they really want to do, which is run the football. 5.5 yards a carry is what Miami is at right now. Right in line with what Mario Cristobal wants to do. He's an offensive lineman. That's what he was in college. I think that's his identity. I think that's this team's identity. And I say this a lot on here when it comes to coaches, man. Like, you can't change where you're from. And I'm not talking about geographically. I'm talking about you can't change where you're from a football background. Mario Cristobal being an offensive lineman, physical identity. He comes from a physical background when he played. He wants to be that same way as a football team. He wants to get downhill. He wants to run the football. Probably a big reason why he didn't take a knee. He wanted to be aggressive and wanted to impose his will on Georgia Tech, and they paid the price for it. But in this game, I think that's going to be the same approach for Miami in terms of getting downhill, playing smash mouth, and testing this North Carolina defense. So, when it comes to this game and what the biggest differentiating factor is for me, I think it comes down to who can handle the spot the best. Because for North Carolina, we talk about the time being now and all they got available to them. Like, there's real pressure for North Carolina. The ACC is starting to line itself up to where, okay, Clemson's kind of down. Okay, well, we'll see what, it's Louisville, and you got Duke still on the schedule. You play Duke, like I said, a little bit later in the schedule. We'll see what Louisville is long-term in terms of if you have to play them in the ACC title game. But, like, for North Carolina, it's starting to become a reality where everything you talked about is now available to you. Do you tense up when that moment comes? Or is it like, hey, we're ready to go. Let's handle this business. Yeah, we got Miami coming in here. We don't care. It's us. It's our quarterback. We feel good about what we have here. And for Miami, we talked about it a lot already. The way they handle all that was said about them this past week. Mario Cristobal with the greatest coaching blunder of all time. Well, old Miami, well, they just totally snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. Like, we've heard it all. We understand that. It's fine. Like, there's going to be a lot of talking. Are they able to come together and pack it in and say, okay, well, right now, boys, we're in the foxhole. Right now, there's a lot being said about us. How do we handle that? Do we come together, or is it a thing where we point fingers at the coaching staff? And that's very, very evident very early on in a football game, how together a football team is. I'll just say this. I think Miami responds. I think Miami is going to take away the run game from North Carolina. I think they put the ball and the game on Drake May's shoulders. I think Drake May is a tremendous talent. I think he's special. I think he gets his plays and his shots in this game. But even so, I think the running game of Miami and the way they're going to be able to control the tempo of this football game, I think Miami wins this football game. I think they win 33-24. And I think we come out of this game saying, okay, the culture at Miami is not just new from what it was previously at the U, but it's real. There's a real edge to this football team. There's a real sense of pride to this football team in Coral Gables that we haven't really seen them have in a minute. So again, we like Miami to win that game on the road, bounce back fashion, statement fashion, whatever kind of label you want to throw at it. I think Miami gets it done, and they stay on track, or they get back on track, rather, in the ACC. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.